Welcome back to the English Scholar Online Camp. The short video is the fourth part of our series in 12 verb tenses in English. In this part, we are going to talk about perfect progressive tenses. Before we run the learning, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more updates from us. Verb tenses are very important in communicating and writing effectively. If you are not using good grammar, your writing or speech won't be effective. This is why learning and mastering tenses is very crucial. I know that it is not easy for some of us. Of course, in some way or another, we still make mistakes. However, constant practice and review definitely help us reach our highest English potential. So let's start. English has 12 verb tenses, and they are categorized into 4. 1. Simple tenses. 2. Progressive tenses. 3. Perfect tenses. And 4. Perfect progressive tenses. So in this clip, we are going to talk about perfect progressive tenses. Perfect progressive tenses is a combination of what we have learned on the perfect tenses and progressive tenses. So, if you have not watched our previous clips, and for you to avoid confusion, you may watch them by clicking the links we put at the description below. Now, time for us to start with the first one. Present perfect progressive tense shows that something started before now and has continued and may continue even longer. This tense is not very much different from present perfect tense. The highlight of this tense is on the time that the action goes on, or for how long. Also, it tells us that it has started before, but just that it does not tell us exactly when. This follows the sentence pattern, subject plus have or has, that makes it perfect. We use have if the subject is plural and has if singular, plus been, the past participle of be, plus ing with your be that makes it progressive. For example, I have been waiting for years. She has been searching for a long time. In these sentences, we know that both the waiting and the searching started because of the word been. And we know it is continuing because of our gerund or ing verb, waiting and searching. As I mentioned, this tense also highlights the time that the action goes on. If you notice our two example sentences, we used for years and for a long time. These phrases are called adverbs of time. We actually have 3 types of adverbs of time. 1. Adverbs that tell us when, like yesterday, lately, tomorrow, in the afternoon, this morning, the other day, last year, last month, last November, and many more. Number 2. Adverbs that tell us for how long, like for a century, for months, for years, for a long time, all day, all night, whole afternoon, an entire hour, for a day, all week, for a few minutes, etc. 3. Adverbs that tell us how often, like twice, thrice, a couple of times, once, few times, and much more. Highlighting the adverbs of time we used in these sentences, we know that they fall under the second type, which is the adverbs that tell us for how long. When we write present perfect progressive tenses, we use adverbs that tell us for how long, since we are talking about an action that goes on. Questions. Can we use present perfect and present progressive interchangeably? The answer to that is yes, since they have the same meaning. But sometimes, in rare cases, only one of them is correct, especially if the information that you are going to provide includes maybe for how many times an action is done or for how long it is done. Let's have an illustration. We have 2 tables, one for the present perfect and 1 column for the present perfect progressive. For the present perfect, we have the sentence, Rose has eaten kimchi before. This means that Rose has eaten kimchi sometime before. We don't know the exact time, and she may have done it maybe daily, or a couple of times, or a few times before, but she is no longer eating now and may still be eating in the future. In short, Rose eating kimchi has started before, but it was just for a few times and is not eating now continuously. For the present perfect progressive, we have the sentence, Rose has been eating kimchi for years. This means that Rose had started eating kimchi years before, and she still keeps on eating until now. And for years here tell us for how long she has been eating kimchi. If you check each sentence structure, you will notice the adverbs of time they use. In the present perfect, we use adverbs that tell us when. In the present perfect progressive, we use for how long adverbs. Please take note of that. Now let's have the second one, past perfect progressive. This shows that something was happening in the past and may have been going on before something else happened. This follows the sentence pattern, subject plus had plus the past participle of be, which is been, plus ing, plus the second action or the second event. We use had since we are talking about past. Had is the past participle of have or has. Regardless of the subject, singular or plural, we use had for this tense. For example, Danny had been sitting for 2 hours when Mandy came, meaning Danny had been sitting continuously for a duration of 2 hours before Mandy came. He had been sitting here is our first action or event, and Mandy came is our second action or event. So the first action is our past perfect progressive because of this, had been sitting. So Danny's sitting had been happening for 2 hours before Mandy came. To make it easier for you to identify the present perfect progressive, just keep this in mind. Always put your focus on the length of time an action has been done. In short, don't lose your focus on the adverb that tells you for how long. And of course, don't lose your focus to this phrase, had been. Next, the third and last one, future perfect progressive. Future perfect progressive emphasizes a continuous action in the future that lasts continuously. This follows the sentence pattern, subject plus will plus be verb have, regardless of the subject, singular or plural. We will use have since we are using will before it. Then past participle of be, which is been, plus the ing verb. For example, they will have been studying for a month. Future perfect progressive has a similar meaning with the future perfect tense, like when we write this into they will have studied for a month. But because it is both perfect and progressive, we should emphasize the continuous action for some period of time. So again, in this tense, we emphasize the ing verb and we emphasize the how long adverbs. Alright, that's all for this video, campers. We hope you learned something. Thank you so much for watching and see you in our next video. Bye!